Good evening. My name is Paul. Thank you for joining me this evening. Today we are going to be talking about the Delaware River, specifically from the Betsy Ross Bridge to the Schuylkill River. Doing this webinar in partnership with John Anderson, Happy Captain's Boating Instruction, and Sea Scout Ship 117. Some quick housekeeping things to keep in mind here. First up is please refrain from profanity. I am recording this, so it's really hard to filter all that stuff out when I go to put it, to consolidate it, edit it, and put it up online for people that may not have been able to attend this to see later. Try to treat everybody with respect, even the things that we're talking about. That's really important because, again, it's really hard to edit out if someone's talking badly about a marina or a ramp, whatever that is. It's difficult to edit that out later on. Let's keep the politics to a zero. That's important so we can all stay sane. Try to turn your video camera off if you can, unless you're going to be talking or you want to ask a question, then you can turn it on and that'll be fine. Also, please mute your mic unless you're going to be talking, then yeah, unmute it. If not, I tend to get some weird noise in the background. There's a raise your hand button. If you press that, feel free to do it. All right, today's conversation, again, my name is Paul. If you don't already know me, I currently hold a 100-ton captain's license near coastal. I've been running boats my entire life. I've run up and down the Delaware River. I run up along the coast from here to Florida and up to Connecticut. Been doing it for a long time. I started this webinar because I noticed that there's a lot of people that just don't want to attend formal classes and want to get out on the water and tend to just jump to Facebook and say, hey, how do I get to here? How do I get to there? How do I do different things? I figured this was a great idea, a great way to solve some of those questions, and a good way to get other people involved with the discussion. Again, it's an area of water we're going to be talking about today, again, is the Betsy Ross Bridge to the Schuylkill River. We will not be talking about the Timber Creek or the Schuylkill River today. We're going to talk about them on Wednesday. I try to talk about a small chunk of the water while we can. The app that we're going to be using today is Aquamaps. It is a paid application. I mentioned it a little bit ago before we started this with everybody that was on the call. I try to highlight a different app every discussion or every week. That way I'm not just focusing on one app. If people are attending multiple sessions of these, it gives them an opportunity to see what options are out there, and they can choose what they want and what they don't want. The reason I'm choosing Aquamaps on this one is because it has this is the only app that you can use on your laptop. You can do all your planning on the laptop online, and then you can open it on your iPad like this, or your phone or other smart devices while you're actually on the water. There used to be other applications that allowed you to do that, but they have since gone by the wayside. Some things that we're going to be talking about today, or different areas that we're going to be highlighting, are popular anchorages or places to hang out and just, either watch firework demonstrations, or maybe they're going to be anchoring next to the Battleship, New Jersey, and listening to the concerts going on next door at Wiggins Park or the different concert venues. And it's important that when you do anchor your boat, first make sure you're going to put plenty of line out. The Delaware River the current can run. You don't realize how fast that is until you start putting your line out hand over hand. And suddenly you're out of line and you're holding the last bit of the line and it's not already tied to your boat. So please, 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 before you put that anchor in the water, make sure, for one, it's not tangled around your legs, around chairs, around life jackets, around things that you don't want to go in the water. And two, make sure that the end, the last bit of that rope, is tied to something on the boat. Because again, really, you run out of line really quickly and you don't realize it until you have the last bit of rope or anchor line in your hand. All right. Make sure that when you are anchoring, you approach into the current. So you're going to point your bow into the current. If the current is going downriver, out of the river, all right, you want to point your bow north. If the tide switches, you're going to point your bow south. Idle your boat, get it nice and stationary, and put your anchor line out hand over hand until it reaches the bottom. When it reaches the bottom, you can put it in neutral, and the current will carry your boat backwards pretty fast. All right, again, just be mindful of that and have your line ready to go. When you have enough line out and you think you're ready to go to set it, you may have to put the boat in forward to stop the boat from drifting backwards so fast, because you may not be able to hold the boat with your strength because of the weight of the current and the strength of the current pushing your boat. I've seen people try to do that and they go and hold the line, and all of a sudden they get wet and the boat just keeps going behind them. Seeing it happen on the river is quite surprising. After you do anchor your boat and the line is set, make sure that your boat is not drifting. Get a couple points of reference, look on the shore, look at the buildings, look at the trees, look at the bridges. If those things are moving away from you or getting closer to you, it's very possible that your boat is moving. So just kind of adjust yourself. You might have to re-anchor it, or you may have to put more line out. Make sure that you're only anchoring from the bow of your boat. That sounds pretty obvious, but we frequently see people on the river. Unfortunately, immediately after the concerts or immediately after the fireworks demonstrations, when it's dark out, they start their engines before pulling the line in, and that's when we figure out that, oh shoot, the line is going off the back of the boat down into the water, and it suddenly wraps the line around the propeller. Or the boat can actually sink from the current pushing on the stern of the vessel, pushing on the transom of the boat. It can kind of come up over the transom and into the boat and cause a sinking situation. Another thing or hazard we see on the river with people anchoring, just like I said, that when you're putting the anchor in, the boat can get pulled away from the boat really quickly. The same can happen when you're pulling the anchor into the boat. Okay, so when you relieve the pressure off the anchor, it's going to get caught by the current and get blown. It could get blown underneath your boat. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. And we've also seen that where that anchor gets blown underneath the boat, I think it's wrapped around the propeller behind the boat, because the boat operator is focused on keeping that boat pushed into the current and not paying attention to where that line is going while they're pulling that anchor in. Really important stuff. Just make sure you're paying attention to all that. But again, have fun, get out there and enjoy it. If it's going to be your first time anchoring on the river, try doing it in a small secluded bay or up at the bottom of Petty Island where it's nice and shallow. Don't do it right next to Battleship, New Jersey, where you could get blown into the battleship, or don't do it on the edge of the Petty Island where you can get blown into the shipping channel. Try to do it in an area where it's going to be nice and safe. And if you do mess up, hey, you mess up and you have room to correct it, and you're not getting blown into a dangerous situation. Another thing I want to highlight is specifically back behind Petty's Island. Make sure you're checking your clearances before you go underneath this bridge. I'm going to show it on the chart in a couple moments. But as you go under this bridge at high tide, it's hard to see it because you might have to zoom in or take a screenshot and zoom in on your phone. But you can see where the dark lines are on the bridge and the light lines are on the bridge. At high tide, you don't get much of a head clearance. Okay, you may be able to squeeze through there in a kayak, but In this image here, we were going through in a pontoon boat, and believe it or not, right when we got through there, we had to take the bimini down and put it all the way down to trailer height in order for us to squeeze through that bridge because it was just barely enough room under there. It can be very deceiving until you're right underneath. We're going to be using aqua maps tonight, and we're going to be talking about transitioning again from Betsy Ross Bridge down the Schuylkill River. And we're going to highlight different things along the way. So they're really important to do whenever you open up any charting application. Make sure that you get your settings correct. Personally, I like to have over here on my overlays, for the purpose of this class, I have my satellite images on. I can turn them off. You can see how it clears the screen, kind of gives it less image or less distractions. But for the purpose of this, maybe you'll see something that you'll recognize. Something else you can do is paper charts overlay. It kind of changes some stuff later on that you may see or may not see. Something really helpful is tides and currents. That may not be needed if you're running offshore, but when we're running on a river, that's really helpful to have. So on the screen, you can, for the tides and currents, you can see that I turned on the arrow. There's a blue arrow right here. That's telling you the direction and the speed that the current is flowing. And if we look over here at the land, there is a tidal station that tells you where the tide is, if it is high, low, or somewhere in between. That tells you that it is currently at 4. It's 3.97 foot and falling. Great information. I can put a fishing chart on. I'm not going to have that right now. There's other more advanced tools that I can get. I only paid for the basics here. I don't need all that stuff. The other thing I have turned on is waterway guide. If it's the first time you turn it on, you have to download some information. That is the bridges that I have here, and there's gonna be the marinas that you'll see later. Other things that are useful is your day, night, or auto. I normally run personally with a night vision just because of my eyes and migraines. It's easier to see. Even during the daylight, it's easier to see when I'm out on the boat. But right now, for the purpose of this, I have it for auto. Perspective view, manual, never, or auto, just an auto. All the above. Safety depth. Let's fix this. Let's put it normal. I'll say our boat's depth is 5 foot. Okay. Nice. Check your units. All right. We have feet. We have nautical miles. Okay. Gallons. Everything is on the English side. All right. Good. Get rid of that. All right. First up here, the first thing we're going to highlight is, all right, right here. Kind of see it. This is Pennsauken boat ramp. The Pennsauken boat ramp is a quote free access boat ramp. I say free access because according to the state, they do say that it's free as long as you have either a hunting, a fishing, or a trapping license. You're good to go, or you have purchased a separate $15 a year maintenance permit. I've never seen anybody ever ask for that. So you do you, but again, that's just what they say. A hazard here, that this ramp is here, but it's also a hazard because you can see this current. I can click on the current and it's increasing. Like I said, it can get to around 3 knots in this area. So see, a lot of people just put their boat in. And unfortunately, as soon as you put something into a 3-knot current, it can often just get grabbed by the current and taken down river or taken up river. Doesn't matter which way it goes, it could just go there and get taken there. And it'll wind up, if I can annotate this here, right? So you back your boat in here, and then all of a sudden what happens is, the boat gets just taken right into here, into this dock, and it gets stuck in there. Happens quite a bit. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that while you're unloading or you're loading your boat on your trailer here. Another thing I want to mention here is this bridge. Everything kind of south of here, large bridges, is no wake is a free wake zone. The Delaware Bridge, Train Bridge, and North are all no wake zones in New Jersey. The regulation there is any bridge that is less than 400 foot wide is considered a slow no wake zone. All right, we're going to move on from the bridges in Pennsauken and head south. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see this. We can see our channel here are red and greens. Again, red is always going upriver. Anytime you're going into an inlet or into a river, you have red on your right or red on your starboard going upriver. We also have these two green buoys here. I'll highlight these. You don't see these on the river ever. I mean, at the shore ever. But I will point this out here so you can use them. Okay. And a circle. Okay, so you see these two green lights? They are your range lights. And if you're going north on the Delaware River, you're going in this direction. If you put those two green lights directly on top of each other, that will indicate that you're in the dead center of that channel. And you'll be perfectly fine. You won't run into anything except maybe something floating, but you'll be perfectly fine as you travel that channel. These range lights, this usefulness goes the entire length of Delaware, from Trenton down to the ocean, and from the ocean down to the Trenton, down up the Trenton. Okay. Head south a little bit here. You see that the channel kind of skates over to the Pennsylvania side. No worries. No worries here. This is the Petty Island down to our south. You can see that down here. This is Petty Island. It's marked like an anchorage, and it marked a kind of a protective area for that barge that used to dock at Petty's Island. It doesn't do that anymore, so you don't have to worry about a barge being docked there, but you may occasionally have a boat or a ship anchored in that area. Just be mindful of that. Okay, we're gonna slide around and we're gonna go back up Petty's Island here. And then once we go around Petty's Island, we're gonna go back down Delaware River, only because, I mean, we're here, I might as well talk about it, right? As we go into the back channel going north around Petty's Island, you need to pay attention to your depth. If you attended the last call or you listened to the last conversation about the Rancocas, you may have learned that this winter there was a whole lot of icing and a whole lot of changes to our topography of the river and the creeks. We could expect the same thing to have happened here at the south end of Petty's Island. What has been happening over time is that Petty's Island, or the sandbars, have been doing this. Okay, so you should be able to expect that this sandbar has gone a little bit further south this year. And to be mindful of that as you come into this back channel, and just pay attention to that. There is a yacht club on the inside here. It's called Farragut Yacht Club. I do not have a website for them. I don't know if they have a website. I've tried to find it, no luck. That orange line indicates their dock. That is a no wake zone surrounding the dock. Another point of interest here is the Barnegat Lightship. If you're ever out looking for something to do, something cool to see, there's a old boat graveyard down here. Really neat to see. Hang around down here. Some people do anchor their boats in the shallows. They anchor their boats over here in the shallow, but it can get really shallow. So don't go too close to the land. Just be mindful of your depth. During the summer, there is a raft up event where people, I think it's a tubing raft up. A whole bunch of boats go out there and have a good time. Um, so if you're curious about it, I don't think I have a link to there, but that's a good spot to go hang out over the summer. Same thing with the north end of the island over here. I highlighted it during the anchoring conversation. All this area is great spots to anchor your boat. Just hang out, relax, because again, it's 3.5, 4 foot, 5 foot. Good spot to get good anchor holding, and you don't have to worry about getting really taken by that current down river or up river. And if you do, you don't have to go, you don't have far to go, and you can kind of resituate yourself. All right, we're going back. We're going north on the backside here of Petty's Island. I want to highlight here by Farragut. Is it raining? It's not raining. From Farragut Marina, basically until about here, is all on no wake zone. There's a commercial dock for tugboats that comes in here. There, so just be mindful of that. And you have the Farragut dock, all really in the wake zone. You have to get beyond those couple of things, then you can open it up and fly and have a good time. Pay attention to your depth. You want to stay closer to the New Jersey side because Petty's Island does come out into this back channel here. You can kind of see it kind of creeping in here, right? So make sure that you stay closer to the New Jersey side. This here is that bridge I was talking about earlier. Again, I mentioned that you got to be careful of your head clearance when you're going underneath this. Make sure when you're slowing down, this would consider this an awake zone as slow as you can before you go underneath this. Because again, it can be really deceiving until you're right up on top of it. That when you know that, okay, I can actually clear it or not. Don't be surprised if you have to literally turn around and go the other way. Okay. All right, we're gonna go back down south along the Delaware River. Any questions about Petty Island? Ed, I see you have your hand up.
That was a old hand up. I'll put it down.
Okay. Okay, we're coming south on the Delaware River. We have a couple things going for us here. This is the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. Really cool. Have at it, take your pictures, whatever you want to do. First yacht club we come across is going to be the Philadelphia Yacht Club, which is right here. Next up is we're going to have Pier 3 and 5. Sorry, I always mix these up. One of these is 3, one of these is 5. Pier 3 and 5, both of them have an annual, seasonal, and yearly permitting. Pier 3 does have transient slips. Pier 5 does not have transient slips. If you're looking for transient slips in this area, you would be looking at Pier 3, Penn's Landing, and Wiggins Marina. I'll highlight all of these in a moment. But you can see where Pier 3 is here. Now we're in Philadelphia, the center of Philadelphia here. If you're curious where we are, I'll zoom out so you got to get the lay of the land. You can see where Philadelphia is. You can see where Camden is. I'll zoom back in. Yeah, the Delaware. You had the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. Okay, right here we have the Penn's Landing Marina. Great place, but limited spots. They have a couple bulkhead on the inside. On the inside of it, they have a couple bulkhead spots. Some people can successfully call ahead and tie up there and go to dinner. Some people cannot. It's not guaranteed. If you plan on doing that, I highly suggest calling well in advance and just having the plan for the day, saying, hey, this is what I'm doing for the day, making sure that they can accommodate you. If you are going to be going in and out of this marina, a couple things to be aware of. First one is that right here is where the Spirit of Philadelphia docks. That boat, that ship, it's 100-foot long that comes in and out regularly throughout the day. You're gonna have a lunch cruise, you're gonna have a dinner cruise, and you may have a supper cruise. Pay attention to that. In addition to that, you also have the currents that could be coming in either direction. Let's leave the color. Okay, so you could have the current coming in this direction, or you have the current coming in this direction. So as you're coming out or coming into this marina, you could either get quickly pulled to the north or quickly pulled to the south by that current. You really have to pay attention to that. In addition to the Spirit of Philadelphia, something else I should have mentioned here is the ferry has an interesting path that it follows. This ferry departs from here, goes all the way up to the Ben Franklin Bridge, comes across, comes down the New Jersey side and into its dock. Okay, that's when it's going from the Pennsylvania to the New Jersey side. When it goes from the New Jersey side to the Pennsylvania side, it would do a similar path when it comes down, over, and up. Okay, so just make sure that you're paying attention to this while you're transiting this area. You don't want to get hung up with these guys. Talk to them. They are on channel 13. Feel free to pick up your radio and talk to them so you don't get hung up with them. On the New Jersey side, Wiggins Marina is currently underway, getting a renovation, brand new docks and bulkhead. I do not know if they're going to be open for the season or when they will be opening for the season. I just know that they are getting new docks. You have a very similar circumstance with the current coming in and out of this marina, where we will have the river and you can get caught whether going north or going south when you're going in and out of this marina. So make sure that you're paying attention to that as you're transiting. Another thing you have going on here is we have, I don't know what it's called this year. We have what used to be the Susquehanna Center, the Twitter Center, the Tweeter Center, whatever it is. You have some concert venue locations here, and people love to come here and hang out and anchor out. And you can absolutely do that. Feel free. Just be mindful of the shallows. Be mindful of that current ripping. Learn how to anchor, like I mentioned, in small bays and small areas. Don't learn how to anchor right here, because you don't want to drag and crash into or get drug into the Battleship, New Jersey. That would not be pleasant. All right, going south here on the Delaware River, we will be coming across. This is on here on the left. This used to be where the SS United States was docked. That has been that has left Philadelphia, not here anymore. I'm going to keep going south. Go across. Okay, we have the Walt Whitman Bridge, which is right here. Something I haven't mentioned is the trash line. The trash tends to kind of stay in a line. Pay attention to it while you're operating your boat. You may see that when you are up in this kind of area, that it will, I'll go brown for trash, that it will congregate over here. Be mindful while you're crossing that line. Watch out for debris, watch out for logs, watch out for you name it. Just be careful as you're crossing it. We come across our next marina. This is the Gloucester City Marina and boat ramp. Common thing that you will find on the Delaware River is that all the marinas are silting in very quickly. And there's not a lot of depth in many of the marinas. And none of the marinas are an exception to the other. All of them have the same hindrance with the silt. That applies to Gloucester City Marina. That applies to Pier 5, Pier 3. I think Penn's Landing is the only one. They currently have a dredge in there. Farragut, if that's still operational, they have a pretty deep area over there, but the mud is slowly inching its way towards them. So if you're using Gloucester City Marina or the Gloucester City boat ramp, just be mindful of the silting. I did hear some people saying at the end of last year they were having to come in at high tide if they were drawing around 4.5 feet. Just be careful of that and plan accordingly. And if depending upon your app you're using, maybe we can zoom out here. Where's the closest? Where is the closest tidal gauge? I'm not seeing one. Should pick one around here. Here's one in Philadelphia. All right, I mean, you can use this tidal gauge right here in Philadelphia. I believe this is the one at the Coast Guard station. Yeah, this is the one at Sector Delaware Bay. So yeah, you can just consult the tidal gauge on your preferred app, and it'll tell you when or where the tide is and what it is doing and when it will be low and when it will be high at the time that you want to go out on the water. All right, we're going to keep going south. On the New Jersey side here, this is the entrance to change that color to something useful. Right here, this is the entrance to, or the egress, the inlet for the Timber Creek. We're going to be talking about this in more detail on Wednesday. Just know that it is here and it is really useful. There are a couple marinas and a couple ramps if you go in there. Just know that it can be tricky to get in and out of there. And we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. As you're going south, feel free to go along the Pennsylvania side here. There's plenty of water. You do not have to always stick to the channels here. I mean, we're talking about recreation boats. We're not talking about container ships here, I hope. So we're only going to be drawing about a couple feet, if that, maybe a maximum of 5 feet, unless we're talking about a sailboat. I frequently just cut across here like this. All right, I've never had any problems. There's occasionally a shallow spot, but I do this for a couple reasons. One, I want to avoid some of those container ships, and two, I kind of avoid that trash line because that trash line I have noticed tends to follow this around. It follows the deepest part of the river because the predominantly is the river, where it is the stream, where the most current is, or the most water is. Okay, this here on the Pennsylvania side, you see where it says Philadelphia. This is the Navy Yard. Always cool stuff here to look at. You can go in as far as you want in these berths. They tend to not yell too much unless you're go in next to an active vessel. So, don't touch it, don't lick it, kind of a thing. But you can ride up along anything you want to see here. This is where you can see the kind of ghost shadow of it. This is where the Kennedy was docked for the longest time. Some cool stuff to see over here. This is also the only place that you can see the Lincoln Financial Field from the Delaware River. You can tend to see it. Draw a line kind of from here to about here, because you have a whole bunch of buildings in the way. Further south you go, and you have trees to kind of look between. But that's the best area to see the Lincoln Financial Field is in that area. Okay, coming south, this is your Schuylkill River on the north side. That up here, that's your Schuylkill River. On the south side, we have a couple things to highlight. We have the West Deptford boat ramp, or some people call it the Rivergate boat ramp. Rivergate boat ramp and the Gloucester City boat ramp, both of those were open from April 1st to November 1st. Sometimes it gets delayed because of, I mean, you got to get the guys out there. They got to install the docks every year because they got to pull the docks out so the ice doesn't pull them down the river. They don't float away. So sometimes it takes a little bit. But I drove past the West Deptford boat ramp the other day, and they were working on it. So it looked promising. Should be open this week, hopefully. But I will highlight that this ramp over here, you can see the depth. This was very shallow last year. There were times at low tide I had to struggle to get a pontoon boat off the trailer, and those things draft no water. So be mindful of this ramp if you're going to be using it at low tide. Again, check your tides before you hit the water and have fun. Another ramp I'm going to highlight here is not labeled. It's the National Park ramp. It's a it's sandy, it's muddy. I would not put any big boats in here. I do see people putting wave runners in here. It's a sand entrance. It's beach access here. It's tidal. I would not put a wave runner in here at low tide. I would treat it as a high tide to a half tide situation. You can see that right here. It's not marked very well. You can see all the trucks here that have backed in and put their wave runners in the water. Another spot here is No Name Island. Highlight it here, circle it. Okay, No Name Island right here. A lot of people come here from high tide down to low tide. They beach their boat, they hang out, they anchor, they relax. It is not sand. I will preface that by saying it is not sand until mid tide to low tide. At the high tide, at the mid tide to high tide mark, you have small rocks and it's real rough. But once the tide comes out, then you find the sand in some of that sandbar. I have not gone to this year, so be mindful. I don't know where that sandbar, where the shallows are and where they aren't, or if that. Normally what you do is you come out of the ramp, you come down, and you beach in here like this. I don't know the width of this right now until I get on the water. Okay. Well, that's all I have to talk about today. That we just talked about all the water between the Schuylkill River and the Betsy Ross Bridge. I will stop sharing my screen. I will open the floor up to anybody that has questions.
No questions. Just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to present this information. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm going to be talking about the Schuylkill River and the Timber Creek on Wednesday. The Schuylkill River is pretty wide, a lot of room to get all the way up there to the art museum. Timber Creek is narrow and it can be tight, and you can get all the way back into West Deptford. I mean, all the way to the Deptford Mall, basically. But we'll be talking about that in more detail on Wednesday.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Our next video will be coming out shortly, and that will be to cover the Timber Creek and the Schuylkill River. Follow the channel for more information or the upcoming videos, or check out our website, whitmanmarinetraining.com, to find out about our other educational offerings. Thank you again.